Hello, and welcome to NJ Thrive Small Business Webinars. You are attending one of our weekly webinars created to help New Jersey small business owners start, grow, and thrive their businesses. It's brought to you by America's SBDC New Jersey and supported by SBA, Rutgers, and NJBAC. Today is Thursday, April 6th, and you are about to attend one of our special webinars. So if you can hear me and see me properly, if you're having issues, please let us know in the chat. We'll do our best to help you. I am your host for today, Uzma Sheikh. And just to tell you what NJSBDC stands for, the whole acronym, we are America's New Jersey Small Business Development Centers Network. That's what the NJSBDC stands for. And we are a statewide program powered by our statewide partners and SBA to help small businesses in New Jersey with three things. And those are no-cost small business consulting, training and events starting at $0, just like this one, and exclusive small business resources. What is on the agenda for today? So we'll have a couple of headlines that I'll share with you, what has happened in the small business community in the past week or will be happening. Then we'll go on with our presentation, and then we'll have a Q&A session. So stick around until then. All right, so what are the headlines? All of these links will be shared with you in the chat. Our webinar assistant, Blair will be sharing them. And let us know if you have any questions, but we highly recommend, as I will be doing an overview, we highly recommend that you go visit these links and read up on your own. So the first, we've shared this before, I know, it's the Small Business Administrator Guzman announces National Small Business Week of 2023. This is just a reminder, this is a big deal in our world. So because it is celebrating all our small businesses nationwide. So that will be through April 30th, May 6th, happening soon. So check out your events and all special things happening on with your regional centers, wherever you are, and check up on social media. That's where everyone is sharing what they're doing. The second week, or the second headline, excuse me, is about Export Week. So let me just move the screen. Okay, so the U.S. Commercial Service is sharing what will be happening during their Export Week, which is May 1st to the 5th, the first week of May. What it is, they will be hosting a number of export sessions during that week. It's led by both private and public sectors, all programs, all type of cool things. So go through this website, and if you'd like to register, there may be a fee, or they might be free. Depends. All right. So the third headline is, it's by State of New Jersey, Division of Family Development, Thriving by 3 Infant and Toddler Child Care Grant. If your small business is dealing with this, then we highly recommend that you apply or look into this. And these are the licensed center eligibility summary. So comply with state and federal health and safety requirements, be in good standing, online application, all of that. And it has all the information. So if you need to create your account, then just go to this website. Then the fourth headline is a press release. Governor Murphy announces $70 million in RGGI proceed awards to fund electric public transportation initiatives. And this is for a cleaner, greener, and more resilient New Jersey. And they are telling you what RGGI stands for, what they will be doing, what the grant program is, what the funding plan is, all sorts of cool stuff. Then CSIT, NJCSIT, part of NJEDA, they're launching a grant program to support startups developing food and agriculture related innovations. And this is planned to create a $750,000 grant program to help NJ startups develop innovative solutions designed to improve food security statewide. And then last one is NJEDA seeking service providers for Trenton-based Maternal and Infant Health Innovation Center. And this is Trenton-based center, which is led by First Lady Tammy Murphy, Nurture NJ initiative. So definitely check this out. All the links are shared. If you have any questions, let us know. Going back to our presentation, we do have, whoops, it's not that. Things to keep in mind during this webinar is that if you have questions, you will see a panel hovering. If it's not there, just click around there. There will be a chat section. There will be a Q&A section. Chat section is just for your comments, anything you'd like to share with us. And Q&A is where we'd like to address your questions. So please leave them in there. Otherwise, they will get lost. Just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and it will be available on one of our websites. But if you complete a 3-minute survey, it won't even take 3 minutes. You will get the presentation from our presenter. And we do have a special guest from NJBDC, which is the New Jersey Business Action Center. We have Mr. Anthony Martinez, who's the small business advocate. Anthony, please share a couple of words and what you do and your contact information.
Hello, folks. My name is Anthony Martinez, and I'm a small business advocate for the New Jersey Business Action Center. So I'm just going to give you all a brief overview of the agency that I work for and what we do. So we've been around for a little over 40 years. We're the New Jersey Business Action Center. We work out of the Secretary of State Department. And within our department, there's I'm just going to mention 3 of the offices dedicated to assisting small businesses such as yourself. So the first one is the Office of Business Advocacy, and some of the things they provide are, what they do is they assist you with site assistance. So if you're a new business looking for a location, they can assist you with that. Or if you're an existing business looking to relocate, they can assist you with that. The other thing they do is project management assistance. There's a whole array of services they provide. Now, where you'll find me is in the Office of Small Business Advocacy. We provide the site assistance, we provide government assistance. So if you're looking to obtain any of the certifications, the Small Business Enterprise, Minority Business Enterprise, or the Women Business Enterprise certifications, we can assist you with obtaining those certifications. If the product or service that you sell is regulated by the state, if you need a state license for your business, we can assist you with obtaining that license. And we can also assist you with finding financial resources for your business. Now, we're not a lender, but we can help you find, we work closely with our sister state agency, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, the state lender, and the community development financial institutions and micro lenders statewide. And then the last office I'm going to briefly mention is the Office of Export Promotion. And they only deal with export businesses. So anything to do with exporting, they can assist with that, like creating an export plans, identifying global export markets, and guiding you through custom procedures. And there's also the availability of the STEP grant, which stands for the State Trade Expansion Program grant. And that can be used like to attend international trade shows or website translations or translating your marketing materials. And again, that's only for export businesses. It's not available. It's not open to everyone, only exporting. Okay. I want to point you to our important websites in the New Jersey Business Action Center hotline. That's our website. You can go to our live chat, business.nj.gov, where you can speak with one of our representatives live. We also have our helpline, the 1-800-JERSEY-7 number. We have representatives, hablamos en español, so we have Spanish-speaking representatives as well. And there you'll find my contact information. And I just want to recap before I go. So we provide technical assistance and capacity building to small businesses such as yourself. We have advocates that assist with state planning. Again, we have the live chat service. We have the helpline. We provide advocacy. We support small businesses. we have export assistance, and we do outreach. Okay, so that in a nutshell is all the services we provide to small businesses in the state. Okay, and thank you for inviting me. My information is in the chat, and please reach out to me if you think that I can be of service to you or assist you. Thanks again for inviting me.
Thank you, Anthony. And as always, a shout out to NJBAC for being one of our supporters always, and thank you always for attending. If you guys have any questions for Anthony, please let us know in the chat, or please feel free to visit the website and the contact information.
Please do. And one last thing I'd like to say before I go is we can also, we're the great connector. We connect you with our sister state agencies too. So Division of Revenue and Enterprise Services, taxation, labor, whatever department you need to get through to, we can assist you with that as well. The Small Business Development Centers, hence the reason for us being here. Thanks again.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Anthony. All right. Moving on with our presentation for today, we have one of our capital team consultants with us, Brian Silvestre, and you are about to look into a presentation with him on how to start a successful business from zero. So Ryan, please come on up. I can't even say come on up. It's not a stage, but the stage is yours. The spotlight is yours. Please go on.
No drum roll.
Oh, I don't know. We'll put the music on here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm still not really used to these virtual presentations. I've been doing this for years, and I always missed the engagement. The looking into people's eyes and engaging with them back and forth and walking up on stage. But all right, thank you for the introduction. And I would like to start by saying that I did use, and I still do use, the Business Action Center quite heavily, so it's an awesome resource. Every time I get stuck and I need to have that introduction like he just said, I would call them, and their hotline's fantastic, so it's one of the best kept secrets out in New Jersey for small businesses. All right, so let's go into the presentation. Where is it? Okay, so share my screen. Okay. All right, perfect. So, Uzma, we can see it?
Yep.
All right, awesome. And I know that traditionally we usually have questions at the end, which we still will. But in the meantime, I like to try and have as much interactivity as possible. So if there is any slide that, Uzma, if you see, or Glory, if you see there's a lot of questions on, just let me know, and maybe I'll stay there for a little bit longer just to explain a little bit more. Because this is kind of an overview, and it's an overview of the mindset that we need to have, but then a little bit more of the action items and the disciplinary steps that we need to have in order to ensure that success. So I've been with the network for, I don't know, 13, 14 years now. So I've seen a lot of businesses come and go, and a lot of businesses that I can see that have found a lot of success usually have two things in common. There's a little bit more structure with them, and there's a little bit more discipline with those businesses. Because there's a lot of people that come to our offices and have fantastic ideas, and sometimes it doesn't really make it to being a very successful business, and vice versa. And again, it's taking time to have the right mindset, and then to have the right structure and resources that we give that business so that we have that success. So with that said, I'm going to start with some basic things that might be pretty obvious to some, but it might be one of those things that, we just didn't really think about it until we actually think about it. And then we're going to get into more detailed, complicated things towards the end. So how do we start a business? The first step on starting a business, let's see. Perfect. We have to start with some basic analysis. And the analysis, usually most people focus just on the business. It's a great idea, it's booming, but they don't take time to do the first assessment, which I think should be a personal assessment. So let's look at ourselves, and I'll go over a couple examples in a few on what I should look at myself first internally before I think, am I a good match for this business? A lot of times when we apply for a loan, not a lot of times, the vast majority of times, when we apply for a business loan from a bank, one of the first questions, is what skill sets, what professional skill sets are you bringing to the table? It's okay that you have a fantastic credit score. It's nice that you have $1 million in the bank or you have $1 million in assets. But if you were a mechanic your entire, professional life, and you're not trying to open up a bakery, it says that you know how to fix my car, but not necessarily bake a cupcake, at least on a professional level. So we have to make sure that we have a lot of things that we'll take a look at in a moment. And then the second thing is then we jump into the business assessments and to make sure that both of them match, which is exactly what the bank is doing. They want to make sure that the person is a good fit for that business and they're making that connection. So let's start by that, by looking at some examples of things that we should look at. So on a personal assessment, these are some examples, and I'll go over a couple of highlights in a moment, but these are often missed or overseen by a lot of different entrepreneurs. And once it comes time to partner up with a financial institution, as an example, if some of these are not in line with what the bank wants to see, or the financial partner or an incubator, a private equity firm, they will be shy of investing or partnering up with you. So the first one is credit, and we don't necessarily need credit unless we're trying to apply for something at the moment. So credit is a fluid number that is constantly going up and down, because one of the variables that determines your credit score is time. And as time passes, so does your credit score, and it will adjust even throughout the day, just like a balance sheet would. And the reason I have a little P, the ones that have a P next to it, that means that this is also something that should be given a lot of thought to for a potential partner. So that's something that a lot of us will miss the, I guess we'll miss the target on. If anybody has a partner in their business, and that partner has typically about 10% on the minimum side, every bank has a little bit different number, but on average, it's about 10% equity or more in that business, they will also look at some of these too. So if I have a great credit score, but my business partner is a little bit shaky, and that business partner has 20% equity in my company because they're my partner or greater, that could stop me from getting access to capital. So that's something that we need to take a look at. And if we're looking for capital, collateral in savings is essential. But if I'm not looking for capital, I need to be able to self-finance my business. So how much savings do I have in my side? And then I'm going to compare that with other things, like on the other side, I have time. So if I have a lot of time on my hand, but I don't have much in savings to bankroll the business, it might not be a good time for me to start the business right now. So I might have to go back to the planning board and wait there, maybe, I don't know, a few months or a year until I have the things in order that I need in order to start my business. So same thing with compensation. Common question that I get, pretty often is, I'm going to quit my job to start this business. Is that a good idea? And there's never one right answer, but it is something that we need to take a look at. So if we are going to dedicate, some time to this business, how am I going to pay my bills in the meantime? Do I live with somebody else that can support the household expenses until the business is cash flow positive? Now character is what I spoke about before. Is making sure that the skill set that you have is a good skill set for the business, and vice versa. Personality kind of obvious, but that's something again that we don't think about, which is if I am opening up a business that it has a lot of customer service, but I'm very introverted, that might not be a good skill set. So I don't have that ability, but I'll have to then bring somebody to my team that does, But same thing with time and health. Health is a big one too. And if I don't have the energy and the strength to do a job that might be a little more, labor intensive, again, not a great fit. I don't want to go into each of these too much because we have a ton of other content that I do want to spend some time on. Again, Uzma, let me know if anybody's chiming in that they want me to spend a little bit of time on something. But the one that I do want to give a little bit of attention to is on the legal side. So if the partner or yourself, have any legal hurdles in the background, sometimes they could affect the ability to secure certain contracts, to get access to certain investments or resources. So understanding what the person that you're bringing on board as a partner or yourself has in the background can help navigate around, whatever that obstacle happens to be. So there's never a variable that says this is the dead in the water variable. This is the moment that we can't do business anymore. Everything has a solution. We just have to find out what I have to work with so that I can work around it. All right, on the business. So let's take a look at the business now. So this again, these are just thoughts or ideas that we're going to start to jotting down that we're going to use later on for business planning. So what's happening in the industry that I want to jump into? What are the economic trends? What are the consumer buying behaviors? What's happening in the economy around me that could help me or hurt me? And that's very important now for 2023, more than it was in the past couple of years, because there has been, there was obviously the pandemic that we went through that has a lot of businesses, either more cash strapped, or some businesses that ended up closing just because they weren't very mindful of what those trends were. What kind of barriers exist for me? For example, right now in New Jersey, cannabis is now a legal business, both recreationally and medicinally. But one of the barriers could be that it's still difficult to get access to banking, or still difficult to get access to financing. So knowing what the difficulties or what the barriers are just gives me a little bit more ability to properly plan so that I can get around it. And sometimes the barriers could be about different things. Right now the interest rates just went up. The prime rate just went up about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So that might be another barrier for you if we need to have a line of credit for our business, in case our clients don't pay for 30 days or 45 days or 60 days out, and I heavily rely on a line of credit in order for me to run my business. And I'm very sensitive to those rate changes. That's an example of a barrier. So promotions, how am I going to announce my business? How am I going to keep people relevant to my business? What conditions exist that could help me or hurt me? Placement and location. There's a few here that I've highlighted in different colors, or that I've just bold, and that's on purpose. So the ones that have the P's, that's the traditional approach to marketing. Those are the 4 P's of marketing that help us understand how to move our product along and how to make sure our product stays relevant in the marketplace. But the 2 that I have in bold are perhaps one of my personal favorites, because it really does affect a lot of your success. So location, if the business is a brick and mortar business, the location has a lot to do with your success. Whether it's relying on the geography and the economics of that geography, or it's on for tax purposes, or what I'm allowed to do. In some businesses in certain places, they do have allowances for certain businesses that can find success in one county or one town that don't exist necessarily in the other county or the other town. And the same thing with timing, so when I open up my business, not only does it affect, my ability to function, but it might affect the ability to capitalize on something that's happening in the economy. Since I mentioned trends and barriers, I can take advantage and ride those waves so that I could find a little bit more success. Let's see. I think Usman, we saw, at least I saw a hand go up. I'm not sure if that's a question that you can field, and let me know if it's something that we can work on or that I can answer. Let's see.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, usually the hands, we're not really sure what that's about since our attendees cannot speak. But
okay.
with the questions, do you want to take a few right now, or do you want to wait until the
end? Yeah. Well, I'm definitely gonna. I want to go through all the slides and have a lot of time at the end to answer questions. But if there's something that I'm on a slide on that you see 2 or 3 questions that kind of have a similar theme, let me know so that I can spend a little bit more time on that area.
Yeah, we haven't gotten specific questions related to slides. We did have a question with what does the P indicate? But our attendees are very smart and they help each other out.
Fantastic.
So we receive answers for those 2.
Love it.
But yeah, I think we'll save some questions for the end. Right now, we don't have a lot of repetitive questions.
Awesome.
So
Okay,
you're fine.
good. All right, good. So, like I mentioned, these are just things to take into consideration. Okay. So, once we actually go into the business plan, we'll take a deeper dive into some of those. So, like I mentioned before, looking at the trends, looking at the economy, what's happening. This is an interesting article that I just got from entrepreneurial.com, and it talks about some of the fastest growing industries in 2023. Now, this does not mean that you have to be in one of these industries or that these are the only industries that you will have success in, but it could also mean that I could service one of these industries, so one of these industries could be my customer, or I could angle my marketing plan, if one of these customers is a vertical of mine, whether it's on the top side or on the bottom side, but it's understanding what's happening so that I can pivot my business, or my marketing or my, my messaging, so that I can take advantage of whatever the waves happen to be, So, obviously shipping and delivery services, are growing more and more every year. A lot of us, find the comfort and ease of just buying things online. Healthcare industry is pretty obvious. Baby boomers are a growing part of our population, every year, and there's definitely going to be a lot of increased demand for that. Food and travel industry, that's always kind of consistent, but it is having a change at the moment because there's new trends in health and eating that have not really existed in the past. Online retail, pretty obvious, and AI is a major disruptor right now. I practically use AI in almost every aspect of my life. And it's funny that this morning there was an article that Bloomberg just announced that they're investing millions of dollars into developing an AI that will act as an automated CFO for your company. So you'll be able to have an AI look at your financials and give you financial advice. Obviously, nothing can replace a person, so you want to take any information that you get from any AI and then compare it to what a seasoned accountant could provide and a little further insight. But that's just something to think about. Okay. So now that we're going to start jotting down some information to get ready for the business plan, these are a couple of things that we should be mindful of, especially more so now than in the past. But it's understanding what is my economic model and what is my business model. So the economic model versus business model idea is that the economic model really focuses on all the components that turn your product or your service into cash. So these are all the different variables, in your business that will show how the cash flow moves through my business. And that's very important because that has its own unique risks that we need to know what they are so we can mitigate them correctly. My business model is what I'm selling and how I'm selling it. So a lot of times, very oftentimes, you'll have one economic model, but that will be overlaid with 2 or 3 different business models on top of it. And one business can have 2 or 3, or sometimes even your competitor can have the same economic model, but a different business model. A good example could be like the airline industry. So the airline industry is pretty standard with what their economic model is. They have fixed assets, they have, the planes, they have fuel, they have, I don't know, ticket pricing that, by the way, doesn't get, in most cases, doesn't hit the books until you actually earn the income, until they earn the income, I should say, which is when you actually get on the plane. But that's part of their economic model. Their business model is how they cater to their customers and how they sell their airline tickets. So an easy example is if we take, like, let's say, a luxury airliner such as Singapore Airlines. Singapore Airlines, their business model is on the experience and the luxury of travel. So here's usually you'll get your glasses of champagne or seats that fold down flat into a bed. And they're catering to that clientele, but it's a one big price that includes all of that, versus, let's say, another airline like Spirit or Ryan Airlines, which has a great name, by the way, but Ryan Airlines is more geared towards the cost savings. So they will sell you a ticket at the bare minimum, but then they're going to add in all of the add-ons. And that's how they generate their revenue. That's their business model. So the idea is, if you just want the bare bones cost of flying to wherever you want to fly to, this is the ticket. But if you want to bring bags, if you want to have select your seats, if you want to be boarded at this time, there are all these different add-ons. That's their business model. Their economic model is going to be the same in both airlines. So understanding the difference between the two helps you structure your business plan, but more importantly, mitigate those risks. So on the economic side, if fuel is a big variable that could affect me, the changes in prices of fuel, there might be certain systems that I can put in place to kind of guarantee what my fuel costs are going to be for the short-term future. Which we can talk about individually a little bit later. So planning is something that a lot of banks or a lot of lenders and financial partners are going to be looking at differently now than they did a couple of years ago. For example, it's pretty obvious, reliance on foot traffic, like I mentioned here in the first example, is not always the case. So up by me in Bergen County, I live in the Fort Lee area. There's a lot of sushi restaurants. It's a very heavy Asian community, and a lot of these sushi restaurants have been around for years. Very great restaurants, great reputation. But there's one restaurant that came out recently, and that's what I have in parentheses at the end as an example of this, is because this restaurant, although they've only been in business for a couple of years, at least in this location, if you look at the Google reviews, it's thousands of reviews and nearly 5-star compared to all the other ones, because they're really using the trends of what's happening online. So they are a TikTok famous restaurant. And as a result, they have lines going out the door trying to get into to this restaurant. No reservations, it's first come, first serve, but people standing outside online for an hour. We're literally around the block. You have an established, high-end sushi restaurant that has, seats available at almost any time. It's because they're taking advantage of what's trending right now, and they're relying on that. And that's exactly what the financial partners want to see. How are you going to guarantee that your money is going to be coming in on a regular basis? I have another client who is an accountant, and once she opened up her TikTok business, or her TikTok profile, I should say, and she got a company that really manages that and does it well, her business again, starts to shoot up a little bit. So ROE, or return on equity, for real estate is another one. Because of the pandemic, it's shown us that we don't have to have a big reliance on real estate. So not all businesses need, all these large offices. So if we are buying commercial real estate, or you are going to buy commercial real estate on your own without a bank, something that they look at is, are you really getting the return on the equity that you're investing into the company, especially when it comes to real estate. So show me how it's needed, how it's going to be used, and then always have a contingency plan or a pivot plan at the end. So again, because of time, I don't want to spend too much time on every single bullet point, but if there's something here, guys, please write it down and I'll come back and I'll revisit it. But just in a nutshell, identify gaps is a big one, where a lot of times we'll have everybody focused on one side of the trend, but they're not showing the support side of the trend. I was talking to another client recently who's in agriculture, and they just make the packaging for a lot of the food, and a lot of their competition is focused on making the food, but she has very little competition because she's only focusing on the packaging that supports the food. So that's just an idea of identifying the gaps that are neglected oftentimes by others. Efficiency focus, this is perhaps one of my favorite ones in this category, is understanding how I could become a bit more efficient with my model, identifying any inefficiencies. And a lot of times, like there's one here that's, paying your invoices early. Sometimes you can negotiate a discount with your supplier if you pay your invoices early, and then vice versa. There might be a penalty or an increase in the invoice if you pay it past, the 30 days or whatever, the invoice is set for. Funding requirements. A lot of times the banks are asking, what additional expenses exist today that did not exist years ago? Some businesses are still big on their on masks and sanitizers and all that. So it depends on the business. And it's not a requirement, but the business might want to make their employees feel a little bit safer, or they might want to feel a little bit safer. So this is going to be a cost that, again, did not exist in the past. One that's heavily missed quite often is investments into the digital assets. and that is a heavy oversight, on most businesses. Digital assets and intellectual property is something that that's usually left on the table as a way to add valuation to your company and also add financial strength to your company. So credit tightening. This is also a big one now. So the economy shrank a little bit in the last quarter of last year. But like I just mentioned, the prime rate just went up to 8% a couple of weeks ago. And as a result, any business that is going to apply for financing or any business that already has financing in place, especially those lines of credits, it's going to be a little bit tougher to maintain the same margins because the cost of capital just went up a little bit. So we have to go back and properly plan to make sure that our margins are still sustainable for whatever our goal happens to be. So that's something to also keep in mind. And the biggest one on this slide is having a plan B. So a pivot plan, a contingency plan is essential. And sometimes that goes into effect even before you open the doors. I have a client at the moment that we're tapping into some contingency financing, that I helped him get some financing to open up his business. But because of the supply chain shortage, some of the costs of the materials have increased. So we're increasing the amounts of funding after we closed, just to make sure that we can still open the doors on time with the plan that we had in place. Certain other things here like interruption insurance is a huge one. I have my own businesses as well, and I think that in one of them, it's that interruption insurance that really helped me get over the hump once we got into the pandemic. So what that pretty much means is if there is an event that you are not in control over that interrupted your cash flow, this business insurance policy will take effect and will pay the bills until you get back up on your feet for a certain amount of time. Obviously, you have to read the policy pretty well. But in my situation, the way this helped me is that I showed that, hey, because of the pandemic, everybody stayed home, nobody's coming to my business. This is how much money I made in the past. These are my expenses, and the insurance kicked in, and I was able to keep my doors open without having to tap into anything else. So that's also pretty a pretty important piece. But yeah, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so for a business plan, I can show you actually, I don't know if it works here or not, but there is a link here that will take me to the SBA's website that goes into detail about the business plan. And there are different versions of business plans. If you go to the SBA's website, and maybe I'll click this on this link and take you there in a moment, they'll give you, I think it's 3 examples of a business plan and a lot of explanation on what should be in each section. The first thing that we need to know about business plans is that this is an instruction manual for you. It's not really to satisfy somebody else. That's a second benefit of a business plan, which is to show somebody else, a partner, what I'm going to do with this business and why they should feel safe about partner up with me in any way that we're seeking partnership with them. So the main goal again is to act as a kind of a workout schedule or an instruction manual for you and your team on how to run this business. There's different versions of business plans depending on what the goal is. The most detailed version is an internal document that doesn't really get shared with the outside. But there's a slight, on the opposite side, we have another version, which could be a summary that we send to investors into our business plan. But essentially, they all have the same basic sections. These are the sections in the business plan, and it all depends on who's looking at the document. That dictates how much information to provide into each of these sections. The first section, which is kind of a cover letter almost, just summarizes everything, and that's the section that we're going to write last after we put down everything together. But on the business description, there's a lot of areas that kind of are sometimes overseen. Let me click on this link, see if it takes me there. Oh, it does not. Okay, let me go back. Okay. But on the SBA's website, it will go into a little bit more detail on what should be into each section. But on the business description, a lot of it sometimes sounds like it might be pretty obvious, but there are sections that we work in, especially internally at the SBDC, that say who is your customer, as an example. So, what's your customer profile? And it's only after having a little bit of exercise or giving it a little bit of thought that we really start to find who our customer is. And one of my phrases that I like to use a lot is, we cannot find who we know, those that we cannot define. So the more clearly that I can define my customer, what are the common threads between all my customers? Sometimes it's an age demographic, or sometimes it's a income demographic, or geography demographic that ties them all together. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 different types of customers that all come to me. An easy example is like McDonald's. McDonald's, their customer profile is somebody who's either low on time or low on money. I need money. I need food relatively quickly because I am a busy, person with my job, and I don't have that much time to sit down and eat. I can just go in and grab something really quickly. And that's true also for most fast food places too. But it could also be someone who wants to get the most amount of food for the least amount of money. But understanding that profile helps me find them, helps me use all these different databases that I'll share in a little bit to find out where they are, where they're moving to, what language they speak, which all helps me also do my marketing that much more efficiently. So, but these are things that that are updated, by the way, on a quarterly basis. So a business plan should be something that is reviewed and updated quarterly, depending on the amount of time that you have to dedicate to the business and all the other responsibilities that we have. But in general, ideally, I should say, it's something that we should revisit and just slightly adjust. We don't have to write a new business plan every quarter, but we can go back and say, what's the place where all my customers are this time around? A couple of years ago, it wasn't social media. Now it's social media. So the way that Ford or Cadillac was advertising back in the 90s and 80s is not the same way that they're advertising today. And I'm exaggerating the example by a lot, but it's to understand that there are shifts that happen every once in a while. Or like we mentioned a little while ago, the benefit of using AI. Those did not exist. Even just even a year ago. There was AI, but not to the well-developed versions that they exist today. So that might be something that I include now in my marketing plan, as an example. So understanding what these tools are and what these trends are helps me become more efficient in my business. I already spoke about contingency plans, which is pretty big now. But the operation is going to be the part of the business plans that I've seen with the SBDC that usually gets the least amount of attention. Most business plans that I've read here that I help clients, fine tune, usually do a good job at talking about the product and service, do a good job at selling the idea, but they don't give me a detailed, instruction manual on how the business is going to be run. How many people are going to be inside the store at what time, so little things like that really matter a lot, especially to partners on the outside, if we are going to share this business plan with somebody from the outside. All right. So on this one, this is things that I personally think we should be mindful of, especially as a lot of the landscapes are changing pretty quickly. So the first one I have here is alternative sources of capital will fit unmet funding needs. And what that means is that there are a lot of gaps in trying to get access to capital. An easy example is, I'm assuming that most people here are either going to be new at their business or are going to be starting their business. So they're at the conceptual stage. And if that's the case, the majority of traditional lenders don't feel very comfortable lending to what's called a startup business. And these startup businesses, by unofficial definition, are businesses that have less than 2 years of positive cash flow. So because there is this huge segment that's not being met, there are, every day I see new financing vehicles that are fitting whatever that gap happens to be. And that's just one example. There's a bunch of other examples. I mentioned cannabis as a little while ago. So most banks that are around us don't lend to that industry. However, if the bank is state chartered, that means that it only exists in the state of New Jersey. then they can lend. But will they? It's up to them, but they can lend. If the bank is federally chartered, then the answer is no. But again, that as an example, I just came across a lender that specializes just in that industry. So we're finding more and more sources of capital. Rising interest rates could cool the economy. Again, the headlines that we saw, I think we're up to, I just read an article, almost 80,000 layoffs this year. So that's going to definitely cool the economy as a result of a bunch of different things. Rates is just one of them. But how do I use that information for my business? Is my business sensitive to the cooling of the economy, or is my business essential? How can I position my business so that I can still be relevant and cash flow positive, regardless of a cooling of the economy. So those are things to consider. Social media spending will increase, and like I mentioned, the example of that sushi restaurant, they put a lot of money into their social media, and as a result, they are becoming more relevant and more of a go-to destination in that area. Marketers will seek to entertain. That's a huge one. So with that same example of that sushi restaurant, their social media posts are more entertaining and less informative. And when you get to the restaurants, it's very focused on that entertainment aspect. And that's something that we'll see a lot with even malls. A lot of malls around the country right now are dying, but those malls that have adopted more of that mentality of I'm going to entertain my customers as well. In a few different ways, you can have a tone of of the personality of your business, and that entertainment has to fit that tone. But those malls and businesses that are focused more on that aspect of that customer experience are the ones that are finding more success. And AI, as been mentioned a couple of times, is disrupting a lot of operations. There's a lot of people that are almost being pushed aside. There was one I saw recently where it was a college girl, I think it was, who developed an AI that can assist with sign language. And it recognizes so there'll be a bot that I can download into my computer, and for a Zoom call as an example, as one example, and someone who speaks with American Sign Language can speak in her or his normal way, but the AI will translate that into audible words that I can now understand, and that is pushing maybe, let's say, some interpreters to a side, because I might not need, especially for a small transaction or a small event, to hire an interpreter. So understanding what's happening, and automation is going to be become even more important. So again, last week was another article that Walmart plans on, I think it said 65% of their stores by 2026, I think it is, are going to be fully automated, similar to a lot of the Amazon stores that are popping up in some cities. Because automation is important for a lot of us to make sure that we keep that profit margin. Augmented reality, virtual reality, it depends on your business if it's something that's relevant or not, but that's definitely becoming a little bit larger now. And AI, the moment that AI and big data from Facebook information from Google, once I can combine those two, it's very similar to that old movie that we saw. Was it Tom Cruise? I forgot, Minority Report, where you're walking and it recognizes you, and then based on that recognition, it creates and curates ads and content just for you. And that's already been happening for a little bit, but that's going to be more relevant in the years to come. Now, the biggest advantage that any small business has is the ability to be quick to adopt. So the smallest businesses can adopt this new technology, and that's the huge advantage that you guys have over your larger counterparts. Where the larger counterparts, if I want to make any change, I have to submit proposals, I have to get board approval, I have to move through a lot of different hoops in order to get something done. But for you guys, for small businesses, it's just you and maybe a partner or two, and you guys can implement something right away. And as a result, you guys have much more, cutting edge technology or resources, or quicker to change in whatever the economy happens to be. All right. So this one, I need to figure out how to show you guys some of these links, because these links are very, very important. So these are, let me see if I can click on it here. Oh yeah, these work perfect. Okay. So this is a great resource. These are some resources that that exist now. A lot of these are relatively new. This one is still in its beta format, but it's a great resource to help you understand how to register your company. So if we click here, once we get to business.nj.gov, it'll take you to a new platform that they just developed that shows you step by step how to get your business registered and off the ground. Here we go. So if you guys have not been here already, I advise you guys to definitely check this out. And it goes through all the different steps that are needed to get the business off the ground. Sometimes there are businesses that have been already up and running, but we didn't do a I guess a run through with the checklist to make sure that all our bases are covered, and we can go back and make sure like, oh, I forgot to do this one, or forgot to do this one. But this is a really good resource, and a lot of it is I've gone through this pretty well on my own, and it's very, very user friendly. It's very easy to use. What's the other one? Oh, small business checklist. I created my own, which I'll show you guys in a moment. But this is another great, and this is a PDF. This is not an interactive like the other one, but it does walk you through all the different things that you guys need to have in place in order to be in compliance with business registrations in New Jersey. And paying kudos to to Anthony, NJBAC again, put this together. But this is a very well put together document that can serve as a great resource just to make sure that we have everything in line. The last two are ones that are heavily missed oftentimes, which is tax planning, which, by the way, all of us on a regular basis need to make sure that we have that conversation with the accountants before the end of our fiscal year. If our fiscal year matches our calendar year, so right before we file for taxes, let's have the conversation with your accountants, your CPA, and say, what can I do going forward for next year that I can plan to reduce my tax liability? So certain decisions that we make today will impact how much money we pay in taxes tomorrow. And understanding what new regulations came out, what new benefits came out, really helps us make sure that we keep more money in our pockets. So let's go with the first one. So the first one is more, again, it's another PDF that's going to be more informational to make sure that we have our registration up to date, and it gives you a little bit bonus information too. It talks about different types of entities, which I'll talk about in a little bit as well. But these are all the helpful links that are required in order for us to make sure that we have our business compliant to NJ codes, especially when it comes to taxes. It's a great little document. Okay. The next one is perhaps one of the ones that has not been used heavily with a lot of businesses that I talk with, but it's essential, which says what is taxable and what's not taxable and what are the rates. This is an extremely important document that a lot of us need to look at on a regular basis. This is updated yearly. This is the newest one, but it talks about what our products are. And here, I'll give you a quick little example. So if I start to scroll down, to the next page, I believe it is. Oh, nope, I lied. It's the next page. Let's see. Nope, and I'm lying again. Geez, I'm such a liar. Let's see. All right, here we go. So this is an example of what is taxable and what is not taxable. For example, just as a quick little easy example, acne products. If it's an acne cream, it has an E, which means it's tax exempt. But if it's an acne cleanser, that is taxable. Understanding what is taxable and what's not taxable and at what rate helps you better plan for your business. So whether you charge your taxes to your client or not, if the item is taxable, you are still required to pay the tax based on the sales. And I think there's a mention of that up on top. But it's very important to go through this for whatever the product is that you're selling, or whatever the services that you're selling, to make sure that we are charging the right taxes. And this is not a federal thing. This is a New Jersey thing. So right as we cross the state border to Pennsylvania or New York, some of these products change whether it's taxable or not taxable. But you can see sometimes in the same category, canned foods, well, and these are all examples of food, but right above it, there you go. Something that's Recreational in the same category is taxed, but when it's medical, it's tax exempt. Same exact product. It all depends on how it is. So this is essential to reference on a regular basis. Let's see. That's the next one. Okay, so this is a checklist of items that I put together that I have to use with clients for a couple of years. That gives us a good understanding of making sure all our bases are covered. So the first one I put down is understanding the name and the legal structure that you're going to choose. Although it sounds pretty obvious, if you have the idea of scaling your business and you register your company as an LLC, just as an example, the LLC is a state registration, which means your name is protected in New Jersey. But if I plan on crossing one of those state lines that I just mentioned, or any state line, that name might be up for grabs in another state. So making sure that we give thought to the name availability, how easy is it to pronounce the name, or how easy is it to say the name? Does the name mean anything else in a different language? Those are just some ideas of why I want to give my name a little bit of thought. Does anybody have that name as a domain registered online? And then understand the legal structure, which I'll go into a little bit more in a little while, helps let us know what our capabilities are with entering into a different state or not. Writing the business plan, which is pretty self-explanatory as to why that's important. But that's when we have a template, here at the SBDC, and you guys can find a bunch of templates online as to how we're going to run this business. Let's see. So after we get that, we want to make sure that we register our business and obtain the tax or the federal employer identification number. And that is it's a 3-step process. We register first with the state, then we go back to the IRS website, get our tax ID, then we come back to the state of New Jersey, finish our registration, and link the two. We have our corporate ID and we have our tax ID. That 3rd step is when we link the two. So that's very, very important. And then that allows us to do business. Depending on where that business transaction is going to take place, we might be one legal entity or another legal entity. That's why we have to understand that legal structure. So as an example, if we are an LLC and the transaction takes place outside of New Jersey, we have to ask that other state for permission to do that business in that state, which sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes the answer is no. Okay. Registering for taxes, that's that last step that I just mentioned when we link the tax ID and the corporate ID. Something that is heavily overlooked is your IP registration. So branding is pretty much, in my own personal opinion, it's the vast majority of your business, but it's almost never protected the right way. So there's 4 types of intellectual property. Speaking with a patent attorney or a trademark attorney, copyright attorney, will help you understand what those 4 areas are. The 4th one is not one that you would need an attorney for, but it's a trade secret. Those are the 4 different categories of intellectual property. But again, if we don't protect it, it's very easy for someone, in another state to run in and run with it. An easy example is Burger King. The original Burger King did not protect their name at a national level. And long story short, they're still around. They're a diner, but they cannot grow outside of their footprint because the new Burger King, which is the one that most of us recognize, was the first one to protect it at a national level. If you guys want to do any additional research or want to see if it's something that you guys can do on your own, you go to uspto.gov. So it's USPTO, United States Patent and Trade Office.gov. And you can just do a quick little search to see if someone has your name anywhere else in the state. And the name is just one part of your IP. Your IP could also be the process on how you do something. The IP could be a customer list. The IP could be a system that you have in place. The IP could be a trademark or materials that you guys write. There's a lot of things that could be protected that can help you get a little bit more leverage with evaluation of the company. So contracts, a lot of us don't have the contracts in place that are needed. Wait, hold on. How are we doing on time? Let's see. Oh, yeah. So let me wrap this up a little quickly, just all the time. So a lot of us don't have the contracts that we need. Make sure that we have contracts with our suppliers, even our own employees on the inside, to make sure we do things well. We've got to open a bank account. I've seen so many small businesses that start up that are running their business out of their personal checking. And it's very hard to then distinguish what is a personal expense versus what is a business expense. So make sure we open up that bank account. We got to set up our commercial lease or our home office. Talk to your accountant and see if I'm using my home as an office to run my business, how much of it is tax deductible. So we don't want to have that conversation. Obtain the licenses, like was said in the very beginning. You can reach out to BAC to find out if they can put you in touch with the office to that oversees your industry to get you the permits or licenses if you need them. Getting things set up on HR. This is not a requirement, but this is a good business practice to make sure that we have even something as simple as job descriptions and have employee reviews on hand. Even if we're just starting out right now, I have a lot of time before my business grows. It might be a good time to just write those up, put them to the side. I can even ask an AI to write them for me, put them to the side. And then when I do need them, when I do grow my company, I can just pull the document out, the documents out at that time and not have to go crazy trying to recreate one. Get my team on board. We're as good as our team. So make sure that you have your advisors, your accountants, your attorneys. COIs are, centers of influence that can lead either businesses, clients to you, or the network that you might need for your business. Get a good bookkeeping system that's ideally tailored to your business. I know on NJ Thrives we have here a regular person comes in to talk about bookkeeping, and it's essential because your business, you can own good data in is good data out. I can't make intelligent decisions if I don't have quality data to make decisions with. So getting a good tongue-tied, trying to rush through all this. So good bookkeeping system in place. You got QuickBooks, Xero, Wave, Benches. There's a bunch of them out there. Business insurance, essential. Again, like I said, one of my businesses was saved just because I had the good and the right business insurance in place. Create our standard operating procedures, our systems, and systemize our business and optimize anything that we can. Implement a marketing plan, so that's when we develop. And that marketing plan, like I said before, is going to be reviewed quarterly by you and your team to make sure that it's as efficient as possible. And the last one is your bylaws or your operating agreements. So this will be between you and your partners, or you and any other significant people that are in the business, managers as an example, that say this is the rules of how we govern a business. The only difference between the bylaws and not the only, but a big difference between the bylaws and the operating agreements is that one is for a corporation where the other one is for an LLC. Let's go into legal entities real quickly. I know that we're, so I'll try to rush through the time, be mindful of your time. But legal entities, have this conversation with an attorney, not an attorney. And if I was, again, not your attorney, but the main difference between a lot of these is how much protection you have for taxes and how much protection you have for legal liability. So tax liability and legal liability are perhaps one of the largest differences. There's a lot of other differences, like how many partners you can have, where in the country can you operate in a business. So there are a few little differences between them, but choosing the right entity is pretty important. It's important to note that if you start out as one, doesn't mean that you have to stick to that one forever. As our business grows, I can grow the entity along with it. So the most common, or the one that's closest to a one size fits all, is usually your LLC. And then if I need to grow into a partnership, into a corporation, whether it's subchapter S or C, I have that ability. Let's see. So let's go real quickly into the if you do require financing, these are things to be mindful of that we need to have in the back of our heads before we have a conversation with the lender or with an investor. What does my credit look like? What does my compensation look like, which is going to be the cash flow, whether it's projected or historical. What kind of guarantees do I have? It doesn't have to be a house. It could be a contract, as an example. Who am I professionally, and what's happening in the world around me that can hurt me or help me, and what am I doing about it? So those are the 5 C's of lending, or 5 C's of funding. We're almost done. I think I have one last one after this, but this is a basic category of all the different types of financing. The easiest thing to remember, and I'll go again, questions, and I can go into a deeper dive. I'm not going to go anywhere, but the important thing to remember with all the different types of funding out there, not all the funding is good funding. not because one is bad, it just might be bad for you at this particular point in the stage of your business. So super helpful thing to think about is the type of funding has to match the type of use. An easy way to also remember that is long-term assets have to match with long-term debt, and short-term debt has to match with short-term assets. I don't take out a 20-year term loan to make my payroll for this week. It's an obvious way of a mismatch of types of funds, and vice versa. I'm not going to take my credit card, and finance something that is and pay slowly and finance something that I'm only going to take advantage of for for the next couple of weeks. But these are a couple of different categories. SBA is a help in guaranteeing a portion of the loan to the bank, so it makes the banks feel a bit more comfortable lending to you. But we have a bunch of other types of loans that, again, we can go into more detail if you guys have questions on what each of these are and how they can be used. And I think, and then I think this is the last one. Now, funding sources. This is where can I go to actually get the funding? So owner's equity is usually where most of us start out at, which is my own checking account. Debt will be borrowing money from other people. Private equity will be a partner that buys into it, whether it's an institutional partner or a private investor. And then obviously you got your commercial banks, and a bunch of other sources. On the right side of the screen, we have EDCs, CDFIs, CDCs. These are these quasi-governmental, nonprofit lenders that are not designed to make shareholders richer. They're really designed to help the economy. So they're incentivized to make sure that they put money in the hands of businesses that really need it. We spoke about startup financing. A lot of startup financing will happen from one of these guys. And then obviously there's a lot of places we can go to grants.gov and filter out the ones that are just for businesses and not for nonprofits. Government loans, government-backed financing, which is SBA stuff. But that's, I think, in a nutshell, a good chunk of this. And let's see. Wait, yeah, there you go. So this is the last screen. So what's next? Obviously, continue checking out NJ Thrives and other learning resources that are available to you. Connect with one of our advisors. And 3, I'm here for questions. So Uzma, how are we doing with questions? And I'm sorry, guys, that we spoke too much. I spoke too much.
Yeah. We do have questions. We do have a lot of questions.
All right, awesome.
I think before we get into the questions, I just want to remind our attendees 2 things. So one is that this webinar is being recorded. It will be recorded until the end, and it will be available on one of our websites. I will share that website. But you can go to njsbdc.com. And the other is that you can find this presentation from Ryan when you complete one of our surveys. It'll take you less than 3 minutes. It'll help a lot in deciding our topics and what you guys are interested in as well. So make sure to take that survey. We'll keep our Q&A a little brief unless people are willing to stick around. We do have about just a little slight flex. We do have 234 people attending right at the moment.
Awesome.
So, okay.
I expect 234 questions now.
Okay, we'll be here forever. All right, so I'll go in the order that we received them. So we have from Stephanie. How about building business credit instead of using personal credit? Is it easier to do it that way?
That's a great question, because it's a very common misconception that I can start out, especially at the start out stage, where we're planning the business out, that, it's my business applying for this loan, it's not me. So there are things that we do in the very beginning to make sure that our business does get that history. But the reality is that for most small businesses, it's your credit that's going to be heavily used, especially as an LLC. Because an LLC is a pass-through entity, which means that it's just a schedule on your personal tax returns. So when I file my taxes, one of the pages in my taxes is that business income. So whatever the bottom line of that business income is, then makes it to the top line of my front page, which is my personal income. And then it's the combination of all my personal income that gets taxed. So because of that, you and the business, especially as an LLC, and depending on the type of entity that you are, sole proprietorship or partnership, you and your business are one and the same, and you guys will have I guess more emphasis based on your personal credit. As the company grows and as we move in towards the direction of a corporation, then less and less emphasis is placed on the personal credit and it's given to the business credit. But traditionally for years, and I know that it's changed a little bit last year, Dun & Bradstreet or DNB was the source that a lot of businesses went to see what your business credit profile looked like. But now that's been changed a little bit, but the bottom line is that for most of the people on this phone call or on this call, it's going to be still you. Hopefully that answers the question. If there's still a little bit of information that I didn't really get to, just let me know. But that I think is a good little summary.
Sure. We have a question from Shivam, and he asks, how do you really find out that you can start business in this area? How can you choose the field for the business?
Oh, fantastic. Okay. So one of my favorite resources, which I did not go into today, is called CBB. So if you look up CBB plus census or plus business, you should go to, it'll take you to Google, it'll take you to a website called Census Business Builder. And that's just one of a few different resources that you can use to see, is my customer here and what are the trends? So once I'm there, it gives you a lot of data, almost maybe too much data, but it'll show you the trends. So first we start off by identifying who my customer is, and then I can go to CBB and see, well, what are the trends of that customer? Are they moving into my neighborhood or moving out of my neighborhood? Are they spending more? Or has nothing to do with geography, we can look up in other ways. But are people spending more money or less money on my industry? So that's one. I combine that with other research that are industry insights. So a lot of your local libraries have access to databases that are paid, that they pay on your behalf. So definitely use a library card. If you don't have a library card, I strongly recommend that you get one. I know the state of New Jersey library has a website that can also give you access to a lot of these databases, plus your local universities will give you access to a lot of their databases as well that can say, these are the industry reports of what's happening in my industry in the last 6 months, in the last year. The combination of those two sources will tell you, if I can go into business right now, or if I should pivot and change my model so that I can still go into business in the near future.
Got it. Now, the next question is from Tracy. Tracy asks, how can I find information about our business taxes?
About your, well, I'm not sure if I fully understand the question. If it's the business taxes as to what you have to pay, but it would be those two links that I that I showed on the screen a little while ago. The tax guides more specifically. And like Anthony said in the beginning, he can put you in touch with the Department of Revenue, Department of Taxation, that can talk more about what is owed historically. So it depends on, if we're looking forecasting or if we're looking at that question historically. But if what I have to pay in taxes, go to that tax guide, and that can help you properly tax plan. Make sure that you're working with an accountant on a regular basis. The accountant should not be somebody that you call only when I have to file taxes. The accountants, their main job is to provide financial advice moving forward. This is how my business is right now, whether it's at conceptual stage or it's been around for 100 years. This is where I want to be, in the near future. What can I do to get there? And one of the points in that conversation is that tax planning. So they'll be able to, really give you that specific, information to your business. But again, use that NJ tax guide that I shared with you guys a little while ago.
Got it. I just quickly looked at the comments and some of the questions, and I think this is another reminder and a quick plug for our services, NJSBDC services, consulting services specifically, excuse me. And there are questions about I don't want to let my business die. How can I start a nonprofit? How can I get an advisor? there are some specific questions that are maybe not fit for this webinar exactly. So I highly recommend, as Ryan is one of our consultants, there are many consultants that we have that specialize in certain topics, but can also advise you on how to start your own business or how to run your business, how to grow your business, things like that. So recommend going to NJSBDC.com, register for our consulting services. They're free, they're at no cost to you. And try to refer this webinar to in that assistance page that you go to, and let us know that whoever assigns you to your consultant, they will know that you come from this webinar, what you're asking for, what your specific demand is. All right. Moving on
Awesome.
to the next question, Pedro asks, what if I am not trying to start a traditional brick and mortar business? I am a graphic designer trying to grow a print on demand business. And if I remember correctly, this is from when you were discussing your business planning slide.
Well, I think the majority of the businesses that are having the most amount of growth are those businesses that are not tied to brick and mortar. So everything that I mentioned throughout the entire presentation applies to both digital businesses or online businesses, virtual businesses, and brick and mortar businesses. The only difference is that a brick and mortar, we spend a little bit more time looking at the geography of what's in my geographic footprint. You know, there's an example of you know, if I am a pizzeria or a doctor's office, I have to look at the drive time, and I can print up a heat map, you know, and I can show you guys how to do that. That says, what does a half hour look like, you know, in any direction from my office? And there'll be like a wiggly line because some roads have a higher speed limit than others and have less traffic. And so, but now I can know what my marketing geographic footprint looks like. Now, if it's a non brick and mortar business, I just take that one element out, but everything else stays the same. I can still look at, well, who is my core target audience? And I can look at them now at a national level or at a statewide level. It all depends on my reach and the legalities of what I'm selling. If I'm selling a product that I can ship out somewhere else, it can be anywhere in the world. You know, same thing with the graphic designer. It could be anywhere in the world, but it has to, the transaction takes place in New Jersey. But for marketing purposes, for planning purposes, I have to be somewhat segmented and have to say, well, where am I, what industry am I going to specialize in with my graphic design? The more specific that we are, the easier it is to market. I can't say I could design anything, you know, although you possibly, you know, you most likely can, as far as from a graphic design aspect. I should start at least with the first chapter of your business with a very specific niche. I specialize in cover art for books, as an example. You know, now I can be very specific and targeted and efficient with my marketing dollars and my marketing reach and my marketing research so that I can reach out to them. But everything else applies to you guys.
Okay, so hopefully, Pedro, that answers your question. If you have anything else that you'd like to add, let us know. We keep getting questions, and I do want to wrap this up and not take a lot of your time or our attendees' time. So, you know what, how about we do this? We'll cover some of these questions via email or newsletter or something like that, and we'll take 2 more because it is 1:20 right now.
Okay.
All right, so I'll go. DC asked, what is the best way to gain business partnerships? In parentheses, they've asked, that will work in conjunction with my business as a new business.
All right. So the first step is we have to define partnership, you know, and is that partnership going to be a referral company? You know, are we doing affiliate marketing with them, or are they going to be an equity partner in the business? So once we define what the partnership allows and what the parameters of that partnership looks like, then we can start to look at different tactics to find them. So one that I think a lot of us will benefit from on this call is businesses that we partner up with. Like I mentioned before, that vertical, you know, so just because I'm not in that industry, you know, that's growing, healthcare as an example, doesn't mean healthcare can't be something that's beneficial to me. If I am a cleaning, you know, service company, you know, and I know that healthcare industries are growing, you know, I can start to look for all the healthcare businesses in my area. An easy way to do that is I find out what the NAICS code is, you know, or NAICS. That stands for North American Industry Classification System code. And that's the code that is assigned, one of the business codes that's assigned to you when you register the company. What I can do is I can then do a reverse search, and this is something that you guys can follow up with me later on, or with any SBDC advisor, to see where are all the businesses that identify as this code throughout the state of New Jersey, or whatever the geography happens to be. And then I can be more specific with my search requirement. I can say, show me all the businesses that are healthcare businesses that generate between $500,000 of revenue and $10 million of revenue, because smaller than that, maybe they don't have the budget for me. Larger than that, maybe I don't have the resources to really satisfy that clientele. So I can be very specific, and I can have like maybe 30, 40 more fields that I can use to fine tune and find my customer. Once I find them, then it's up to me to develop a marketing mix, which is a set of tactics that I can use to reach them. That could be an email along with a phone call, as an example. That's a very simple marketing mix that will help me reach out to them. And then I decide whether my time is worth the effort to call them, or should I outsource that to somebody else, whether it's a salesperson that I hire, a professional salesperson, or an intern, or a virtual assistant. But that would be the system of how to find those partners. If the partner is a manufacturing facility to help you manufacture your own product, again, finding out what that partner is, I can go to that that database that says these are all the manufacturers in New Jersey that can help you produce that widget or that whatchamacallit, whatever happens to be. But there's a lot of agencies that can help you find out. So to answer your question concisely, we have to talk to a consultant, find out what kind of partnership we're looking for, and then we can develop a strategy around it.
Got it. And our last question of the day is from Ian. Ian asks, is there an age requirement for including your kids in the formation of your business?
Ooh, all right. So I'll preface that with a nice big old disclaimer, not a tax attorney. And if I was, again, not your tax attorney. But for the most part, there is an allowance for you to allow your child to work for your company, and you can then write off the amounts of money that you're going to be giving that your son or your daughter to work for your company as an employee. I have to be very careful with how I phrase this. But those are conversations that you want to have with your accountant as to what those limits are. And that title has to be a realistic title that is really in the capacity of what they really can do. Although there is no, as far as I know, minimum age to be an equity partner in a company, it does have to make sense. What we don't want to have is, flag a, the IRS because something looks too fishy. I can't pay my 8-year-old kid or 5-year-old kid to do, I don't know, marketing for me if they don't really have good command of understanding how to use their I don't know, social media platforms as an example, or their financials, whatever happens to be. Now, usually what most people do is that they'll create a different legal structure, like a trust, where they name one of their kids as the beneficiary of that trust. That's a bit more conservative of an approach to name someone as an equity partner in a company. So my company is entrusted to one of my children or my child or whoever it happens to be. That perhaps would be the best way to approach it. But again, not an attorney, and I'm not your attorneys, so I can't give you that legal advice. But there is no minimum age as far as I know.
Exactly. Anything that we recommend, we always give this disclaimer when we have accountants come on, like Sierra comes on, or anything that we recommend, please take that with a grain of salt. Like, just because we're recommending that, please do your own research, do your due diligence. We'll wrap that up, the Q&A. I just want to quickly share my screen and let our attendees know what's coming up next from us. So can you see my screen okay?
Yep, I see it.
Okay, so our upcoming webinars next Thursday, April 13th, Please scan this QR code if you'd like to register immediately or go to our website and you'll find it there. With Ariel, we have crowdfunding for small businesses. She's a founder of 100K Incubator. Cool topic, something that we haven't really done before. So a first for us and first for you. Please attend and let us know how you like it. Scan that QR code or just attend our Eventbrite page. And just a reminder for everyone who's stuck by us and has supported us, thank you so much. We've helped 15,000 plus small business grow. Just a reminder on what we do, no cost small business consulting on many topics like social media, marketing, e-commerce, accountant, anything related to strategies, things like that, we can help. Certainly training and events starting at $0, just like this one, exclusive small business resources. Please visit our NJSBDC.com website or just scan that QR code. Thank you all so much. Thank you for stopping by. This is where it comes to end. Have a great day. Thank you, Ryan, so much for doing this with us always. And all of you have a great day. Bye.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.